Low energy Jeb Bush is back, and he just cucked himself to Trump, and he actually accidentally explains here why establishment Republicans are just as bad as Trump.
How do you evaluate where we are and his performance?
I can list the things that I think are helpful, that have helped propel a little faster economic growth and rising income for Americans, which is great. So the tax cuts, the regulatory changes, the judiciary over the long run, all those things are very positive. He's put good people in areas of government that I admire. Where I think the president, it's work in progress, would be on the trade issues that actually, if you parachuted in from Mars, you would think that was probably a liberal advocating protectionism, because that historically has been the case. And then on foreign policy, again, we haven't had a major crisis to deal with, but this unilateralism or go-it-aloneism, I think, is really dangerous. Our friends no longer believe that they can trust the United States, and our enemies, in many cases, feel emboldened by this approach. I think it defies the bilateral, multilateral, or bipartisan kind of consensus on foreign policy that has, by and large, kept America safe.
When I talk to my Republican friends, they say, "Look, we got judges, we got tax cuts, we've got deregulation, so we're getting stuff." But they say, and so we have to tolerate a little bit of dishonesty, a little bit of incivility.
That's where I think they're wrong. You can honestly say he's done good things in terms of policy and applaud them.
We would debate some of those things.
Sure, and that's politics. Yeah. But when people, particularly presidents who have a duty beyond policy of being the leader of our country, the leader of the free world, I think the symbolic, the kingly duties of the presidency, that's where he falls short. And it's important. It's important during national tragedies. It's important in moments of crisis. It's important in the day-to-day creation of culture that helps sustain us.
Wow, is that telling? And all I have to say is, I told you. I told you. One of the things that I said that caught on more than almost anything else I said is that establishment Republicans want everything Trump wants, minus the mean tweets. And the reason that caught on is because it's so true. They're really distressed by him being a loose cannon and having no filter and just going balls to the wall on Twitter, getting in fights with fucking SNL and shit. They hate that. They can't stand that. Basically what they want is a pretty, happy, smiling, civil face on their grotesquely bad policies. And again, you don't have to take my word for it. Jeb just told you. Low energy Jeb just told you. So let's go through it. He says, well, the good things Trump did, first and foremost, first thing he mentions, what is it? Tax cuts. So this tax cut bill, 83% of the benefits go to the top 1% over a decade. 83%. So this is a giant tax cut for the mega rich. That's what it is. It also incentivizes outsourcing. We just covered a story on that where tax experts were testifying in front of Congress, and they were like, yeah, the way the bill is structured, it incentivizes outsourcing. So that's why you see a lot of these car companies now leaving. The few that remained are now leaving the Rust Belt. And it hurts workers. And of course, it slashes the estate tax, which only applies to the top 0.01% of earners. So just the mega rich, it slashes the estate tax. Obviously, by the way, that helps Trump massively. He gets to pass on more wealth to his kids. So, this bill is hideous. It's disgusting. It's the exact opposite of what's needed in this country right now. We need a more progressive tax system, not a less progressive system. We need to raise taxes on the rich, not cut taxes on the rich. I'm open to the conversation of cutting taxes on, poor people, middle-class people, but definitely for the wealthy, those rates got to go up, man. They have to go up. But what's Jeb Bush saying here? Also, by the way, it added massively to the debt and the deficit. over $1 trillion. And Jeb used to pretend to care about that. Now he's like, I don't know, these tax cuts are great, even though it adds to the debt and the deficit. Then they'll come around and deficit fearmonger when it comes to Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security. They don't care. Endless war spending, endless tax cuts for the rich are fine, but anytime it's anything for you, oh my God, this costs too much and we can't add to the debt and the deficit. So that's the first thing he mentions is tax cuts being awesome, even though that's one of the worst things Trump did. Then he says deregulation is awesome. Your brother's deregulation was part of the reason we had a subprime mortgage crisis and Great Recession, you fucking doofus. And now he's like, oh, deregulation's great. So again, the worst parts of Trump, they think are the best parts of Trump. Then he says, oh, the judges he's appointed are great. These are fucking dyed-in-the-wool, Kool-Aid drinking, extreme right-wing ideologues like fucking Brett Kavanaugh, that dipshit. Frat boy fail son who made it simply because of, the crowd he ran in. And Jeb Bush loves that shit. Loves it. So again, it was never a substantive criticism of Trump. It was a surface criticism. Oh, he's unfiltered. Oh, he does mean tweets. But oh my God, he's awesome on policy. Then, this is the part that really pissed me off even more than what's pissed me off to this point. He lists on things that are bad. This is wrong. This is 2 layers deep of incorrect from Jeb Bush here. He says, the areas where Trump's been bad. Well, trade is one. So, and what he's talking about is, the tariffs. Now, it's true that the tariffs are bad, but the tariffs are not bad because tariffs are bad, full stop. The tariffs are bad because the net impact of these specific tariffs that Trump did has been net job loss, okay? So Trump's tariffs are bad, but that does not mean all tariffs are bad. What does Jeb Bush say? Well, the problem is tariffs. So, in other words, what he wants is, like Hillary Clinton did and what WikiLeaks showed she wanted, totally free and open trade borders where we basically have like NAFTA on steroids and TPP on steroids, where it's a race to the bottom and you outsource all the jobs and that's the way the economy is structured. That's what he wants. So he goes after the few things where Trump has had some bright spots, at least in terms of ideology, even though his implementation has been wrong. And then he says, well, another bad spot is foreign policy. And what he's saying is Trump isn't pro-war enough. That's what he's saying. And he's such a dumbass, he doesn't realize that the chatter doesn't always equal the reality. Trump has been saying anti-war shit, but he hasn't been doing anti-war shit. We've covered the stories. We're permanently staying in Syria. We're still in Afghanistan with 7,000 troops. He's not even pretending we're going to get out of Iraq. So all the head fakes, idiot Jeb Bush falls for the head fakes. Oh, man, he's pulling out of wars. I don't like that, man. We got to go back into the wars. You dumbass, he's staying in the wars, and you're too dumb to even know what's really happening. But he's criticizing even the rhetoric of getting out of wars. God damn it. These guys are even worse than Trump. And then he says, oh, the other problem is with our allies. He's ruining the relationship with our allies. First of all, no. He's done more for Israel and more for Saudi Arabia than any other president ever has done. That's point number one. Point number two is, that's a bad thing. I wish he was changing the relationship we have with our allies. We're funding a fucking terror state that's committing a genocide in Yemen, you dipshit. Do you not care about innocent civilians being killed in Yemen this much? Don't answer that. I know the answer is yes. But that's a bad thing. Oh my God, he's so dumb. Oh, he's so dumb. Israel, in the case of Israel, again, he moved the fucking capital to Jerusalem, moved the embassy to Jerusalem. And he's acting like, oh yeah, he's fucking ruining our relationship with our allies. Are you kidding me? He's doing everything our allies want, but that's a bad thing. See, I told you, 2 layers deep of stupid and wrong. And then finally we get to the main point, which is, well, there's dishonesty, there's incivility, and there's mean tweets. I, Jeb Bush, do not think we have to tolerate those things. I think we shouldn't tolerate them. But we should get all the awesome policies he's doing. And again, that's just complete and utter literal proof of the point I made over a year ago, I'm sure, at this point, where they don't have an issue with his far right-wing insane policies. Their issue is with decorum and civility. And this fucking cuck wonders why he lost. Because you're just a less charismatic version of Trump. That's what you are. You're a more filtered, less charismatic version of Donald fucking Trump, even though he thinks he's so much better. Yeah, well, your negative 18 votes say otherwise, dipshit. Congrats on being such a cuck.